Hello everyone, this is Daniel of fitnessblender.com, and today I'm going to be taking you through some of my favorite lower back and core conditioning exercises. It is a great routine to do either just the warm-up, just the cool down, or the whole thing all the way through. If you want to learn more about how to do that, you can read it in the description below. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started with the warm-up. Alright everyone, for our warm-up we're going to be doing each one of these exercises for 30 seconds apiece. Just nice and slow, working our way through. Let me get my timer started here. We're going to be starting off with just standing toe touch sweeps, so just nice and slow, basically going down to try to touch those toes. So spread those feet just a little wider than shoulder width apart. You can go down one leg, across to the other, back up, a little bit of a backward lean, and then back around the opposite direction. Just nice and slow, start working that circle bigger and bigger as you start feeling like you're loosening up. Just keep those lungs open, no holding your breath. Keep that back relatively flat. All of this should be hinging from those hips. And now we're going to switch to just hinging from those hips. So you're going to round your shoulders forward, around, pause the back, all the way around, back the opposite direction. Pause the back and around. Just back and forth. This time keeping those hips straight up and down, all of the motion just coming from around that torso. Just keep those lungs open again, no holding your breath, and try to stretch that circle bigger and bigger as you go. Alright, we're going to do warrior side bend, so feet go out even wider. Hands come out to your side. You're going to bend off that left knee, stretch over with that right hand, back up to center in the middle, and then same thing off the other side. Stretch it over and back up. Just alternate back and forth. Again, keeping those lungs open, trying to get a stretch to that torso, a little bit into that inside thigh. All right, we're going to drop down onto your knees. We're going to do a cat to cow. So hands and knees, you're going to drop that lower back, kind of dip it down, and then arch it up. Start out just with the movement, and then as you go, try to exaggerate it more and more. We move straight into bird dog, so stand exactly, or stay right exactly where you are. One hand, one foot, opposite leg and arm, come up. Slowly down, and then opposite side, bring those up, squeeze it, and slowly down. Keep this motion slow and under control. No quick movements. You're trying to get a nice full range of motion with a bit of a squeeze at the top as you contract, rather than trying to do it quickly. So right hand, left foot, and switch over. Alright, we're going to go straight into a Cobra to shell, so go ahead and flatten out onto the ground. You're going to stretch that back up for that Cobra. Keep those hips on the ground, shoulders back, then drop it down, and move back into that shell. Then right back out again into that Cobra. So kind of doing a little bit of a push-up in between. Flip around onto your back. We're going to be doing Pilates Leg Pull next. So legs out, grab behind that thigh, pull in with the other foot hovering, then switch over, pull that leg in, other leg stays hovering. Just nice and slow, back and forth. Keep that lower back pressed down into that mat. Just alternating back and forth, nice and slow and under control. I'm going to flip over onto your stomach. You're going to lift those legs one at a time, just alternating back and forth. Nothing fancy, you're not trying to add anything else to it. Just try to pull that leg up a little bit higher every single time while keeping that leg straight, so no bending that knee. Just keep those lungs open. And come up on that tailbone. We're going to sit. You can either cross those legs in front of you or keep them out, whichever is more comfortable. You're going to keep that torso straight up and tall. You're just going to rotate left to right using only your core to get that motion, no touching your legs with your hands. You're just rotating that torso back and forth, so no rotation in those hips, no leaning. Your spine is perfectly straight, just a rotation directly above those hips. Now you're going to kick those legs out if you don't have them out already. Nice and wide. And we're going to do a saw. So you're going nice and slow with the opposite arm from foot. Go to the outside of that leg. So left arm to right foot, right arm to left foot. Then back to center every single time. Exhale as you drop down. Inhale as you come back up to center. Keeping those legs nice and straight. And let that relax. All right, so give yourself just a little bit of a break. We're going to come right back and start into the more difficult exercises here in just a second. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get ready for the workout portion of this. We're going to be doing each one of these exercises for 50 seconds a piece with a 10-second break to get ready for the next exercise. So this will go actually relatively quickly. So try to pay attention, and we'll try to move through this as cleanly as we can. All right, so let me get my timer started here. We're going to be starting off with an inchworm. So I would suggest actually standing up for this one. I'm going to do this from a kneeling position just so you can see me a little bit better. But you're going to start with your back perfectly flat, and you're going to very slowly tip your chest forward and then flatten it out again. So you're going to be a little bit at an angle. So round your back and then flatten it out again. Round your back and then flatten it out again. So you're just kind of going down just a few inches at a time, just trying to get a little bit more range of motion as you go. And then do the exact opposite on the way up. So arch up, round, arch up, round, arch up, round, until you're back to a full straight position and right back down again. Keep those lungs open, no holding your breath. Good job. Take a 10-second break here. We're going to move on to just traditional crunches. So go ahead and lay flat on your back. So hands behind your head. Nice and slow. Crunch up. Trying to pull your shoulders down into your hips rather than trying to crunch up towards your knees. So it's just crunch forward and actually kind of feel like you're crunching those hips in towards your shoulders at the same time. Keep that lower back flat against that mat. Keep everything contracted nice and tight. If you feel like having your hands behind your head is actually too difficult for you, feel free to bring them in front of your chest. It's going to make it a lot easier. If behind your head feels really easy, then go to a full extension to make it even harder. Nice, slow, controlled motions. Remember, as you crunch those shoulders down towards those hips, feel like you're crunching your hips back up towards your shoulders at the same time. And let it relax. We're moving to a reverse crunch. So we're actually going to stay in the exact same position, but this time instead of crunching your shoulders forward, we're going to be lifting your hips up. So hands out nice and wide, just so you're not touching those hips. Legs came up. And you're just going to push those hips straight up off the ground, trying to lift them up off of that mat. Don't swing your legs. We're not using momentum. If you feel like you're doing one of these kinds of things, stop. Bend those knees slightly. Just shove those hips straight up in the air. No moving those legs at all. All that movement is just coming from that lower back, pushing those hips up. Just keep those lungs open. Exhale as you squeeze up. Inhale as you drop back down. Keep that momentum under control. So nice and slow on the way up and on the way back down. Let that relax. All right, we're actually going to be in the same position again. We're doing windshield wipers this time, rotating those legs left to right. So starting with your knees stacked, nice and slow, you're going to drop them off to one side and then the other. If you want to, you can get those arms really nice and wide to help control that position. The key here is to go as far as you can without letting those shoulders come up off the ground. So just rotate as far as you can. Try to get that knee to actually completely touch down to the ground as long as that opposite shoulder isn't touching. or excuse me, is still touching the ground. You don't want to let it lift up. And if you want to make it more difficult, extend those legs out to a full extension. Just add that extra weight in there. Otherwise, keep those knees bent for a slightly easier version. All right, back over onto your stomach. We're just going to flip. Doing a back bow rotation. So this is a back bow with a little bit of a twist. So you're going to come up and rotate. Down, up, and rotate on the opposite side. Just alternating sides. Nice, slow, controlled movement. Again, trying to lift your chest and your shoulder up as high as you can each time. No quick jerking movements. Keep it a nice, steady pace all the way through. Easiest version is going to actually be with your hands tucked to your sides. Next hardest is in front of your face. And hardest is arms fully extended. You can also use a dumbbell, just a really small dumbbell right in front of your face to help make it that much more difficult if you're needing more of a challenge off of this. Let that relax. All right, we're moving to, if I look at my right list here. All right, plank hip dips are our next one. So we're gonna stay right where we are. We're just gonna come up into a push-up position on your elbows. Elbows and toes, or elbows and knees if you can't quite hold a full plank. And you're going to drop your hip off to the side, tap it, and the same thing on the other side. Like I said, this is the hardest version if you go from elbows and toes. If you have to, or if you need to, you can drop down to knees and elbows. But if you can, try to keep it up on those toes. You want to engage those core muscles as tightly as you can. No rotating your shoulders, you're just twisting at the hips. Dropping down, barely touching, and right back up. We're going to do a few of these versions of planks all the way around that core. Just keep it going and let it relax. All right, we're going to flip you over onto your back. We're going to do the exact same thing in reverse. All right. So bring those hips up off the ground, tap those hips off to the side, back and forth. Now, as you can see, your knees don't bend the opposite direction. So to make this easier, you're going to need to put either something like a bench or a couple of towels, some stacks of books, maybe even a foam roller underneath those calves or knees to bring that leverage point in just a little bit more to make it a little easier. Otherwise, this is going to be the easiest version you can do without any extra pieces of equipment. The only way to make it harder from this point is actually to strap weights on those hips to make them a little bit harder. So using something like a weighted vest or ankle weights. Focus on just a little bit of rotation through those hips, tapping side to side, and that's it. All right, we're going to switch to one side now. We're going to do the left side first. Same exact thing for those hips, but this time just trying to keep those shoulders perpendicular to the ground. So shoulders try to stay as stationary as possible. You're going to tip those hips forward, tip them back. Don't completely compress forward. It's just a little bit of a roll in those hips. Again, if you want to make it a little bit easier, bend those knees. This is a very small difference from tipping those hips forward to tipping them back. Because like I said, you're trying to keep those shoulders as stationary as possible, just rotating from that torso. If you can, get those legs all the way out there for that full extension. All right, same thing on the opposite side. So switch it over. Easier version is on those knees, harder version is the full extension. So a little bit of a tip forward with those hips, shoulders perpendicular, a little bit of a backward tip with those hips. So to help you keep from rolling those shoulders forward, feel like you're actually pushing your shoulders in the opposite direction that you want your hips to go. And again, if you need to, you can always drop onto those knees. For the easier version, the only way to make it harder is go to that full extension with those legs and then adding weight from there. But make sure you have the motion and the control over this first before you ever start adding any kind of weight. All right, let that relax. All right, doing a marching bridge next. So back on your back again. Flat on your back, feet tucked in. Bring those hips up and freeze them right where they are. Don't let them tip, don't let them rock back and forth. You're gonna lift one leg at a time, lift it up off the ground, not very high, just a couple of inches. Then same thing to the other side. We're not doing any kind of extension with that leg. We're not trying to move quickly here or get a lot of range of motion. This is about keeping those hips stationary. So you have to really work all those stabilizing core muscles to make sure that hip doesn't move. When you're doing it at home, you might notice that as you lift a leg, your entire hip will kick to compensate for leverage. Work as hard as you can not to let those hips move. So it's just moving those legs, that hip, and let it relax. All right, I told you it would go fast. So all we have left is our cool down and stretch, but this is just as important as these exercises, so make sure you don't skip it. We'll be right back in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and finish up that cool down. We're going to be doing each one of these for 30 seconds apiece, so let me get my timer started here. Our next exercise is going to be a seated toe touch. So we're just going to be sitting on that tailbone. Kick those feet out in front of you, nice full extension. You're just going to stretch down as slow as you can, as slow as is comfortable, down towards those toes. Once you start feeling that lower back or those hamstrings start to tighten up, just get a good little stretch there and just hold it. As they loosen, push a little bit more into it. So if you can't quite touch those toes, don't worry about it. It's just about feeling that stretch. Just let it relax. All right, bring those feet in nice and close together. And you're just going to lean forward until you feel inside that hip socket stretch a little bit. You're just trying to get a really nice deep stretch in that hip. So keep that back nice and flat, no rounding your shoulders forward, because as soon as you round your shoulders forward, you're going to loosen that stretch. So flat back, tip forward, and just breathe normally. All right, seated toe touch. We're going to kick that right leg out, left leg tucked in. You're going to reach down towards that right toe, chest opened up forward, and you're going to tip over with that arm over top of your head. Just let it stretch. You're going to feel it through the back of that leg and through the side of that torso just a little bit. And you're just going to hold it there. And as it loosens up, you're just going to move more and more into it. Now stay right here. We're going to take that chest and we're going to twist it down towards your leg. That other arm comes straight out. Try to even it out with the arm that was there before. And you're just going to try to get a little bit more of a stretch through the back of that leg in a little bit different location. So just hold it there. Breathe deep. Try to let it relax the best you can. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So that other leg kicks out. So left leg out, right leg in. Starting with that chest open again. Reach over top, getting that stretch to the back of your leg and through that torso. Just get a nice good stretch without it being painful. As it starts to loosen, just push into it a little bit more. Again, hold this position. We're going to slowly rotate that chest down towards your leg. Try to straighten those arms out so they're even. Just keep those lungs open. Should feel a nice extra stretch to the back of that leg. And let that relax. Right, lay flat on your back. I'm going to bring your left leg up, grab behind, or sorry, your right leg up, grab behind that knee, get a stretch up towards that leg just a little bit, let it down, and then right back up, pull in, and hold. Just gonna kind of stretch that hamstring again, just another little bit different way. And let that one drop. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So that left leg's gonna go out straight. You're gonna bring it straight up over top of that hip, pull in, let it relax all the way down to the ground, and then right back up again. Grab behind that thigh one more time, pull in as tight as you can, as tight as is comfortable, as long as you can keep that knee straight. Crunch those shoulders forward towards those hips, towards those that thigh. Let it relax. Bring that right leg over top of the left. Grab behind that left thigh and pull in for a deep glute stretch. You should feel it in the leg of the right leg, the glute and hip of that right leg. Just pull it in as close as is comfortable. As it starts to loosen up, just like all the stretches, just pull in just a little bit more as that stretch starts to loosen. Switch sides, nice and slow. Left leg over top of your right this time. Slowly grab behind that thigh and pull in. Pull in as far as is comfortable. Just feel that stretch in that hip of that left leg and just hold it there. Pulling in a little bit more as that stretch starts to loosen. And there you go. Slowly let it back out. And let it relax. All right, that is it. Now, if that was pretty easy for you going through this first time, or your second time, or third time, next time you come in, try to do a little bit more challenging version of each one of those exercises. If you're already doing the most challenging version, the next time try to add just a little bit more weight, whether you need to use holding a dumbbell or you have to use something like an ankle weight or weighted vest to get just a little bit more effort out of it. We're keeping with this, especially those stretches. If you want to go through all those stretches we just did for a little bit longer, hold each one for a little bit longer, it'll really, really help loosen up and that core, as well as those exercises, help to tighten in the right places rather than having tight ligaments or tendons, making sure that all those muscles are nice and tight and making sure those ligaments and tendons are nice and supple and can move easily. So, I hope you guys like this. Let me know if you want to see more like it, and I'll see you guys next time. This workout is complete. Bye, guys.